Did you know that 90% of cats experience real terror at the sound of a working vacuum cleaner? This is not just an amusing behavioral trait. Behind this reaction lies an entire world of feline neurology and evolutionary survival mechanisms. Today we will dive into a fascinating exploration of why our furry friends are so desperately afraid of this harmless household appliance. Before we reveal all the secrets of feline fears, write in the comments how exactly your pet reacts to the vacuum cleaner, hides under the bed, hisses, runs away, or perhaps your cat belongs to the rare, fearless type that attacks this monster. Perhaps your pet has developed its unique strategy, for example, observing the vacuum cleaner from a safe distance or demonstratively ignoring it. Your stories will help us understand the full diversity of feline reactions and possibly find patterns we don't yet know about. In the meantime, stay tuned, because understanding your pet's fears is the key to creating a comfortable and safe environment for them. Let's first understand what happens in a cat's brain when a vacuum cleaner turns on. Cats have incredibly sensitive hearing. They can detect sounds in the range from 20 Hz to 65,000 Hz, which significantly exceeds human capabilities. We only hear up to 20,000 Hz. This means that a vacuum cleaner for a cat doesn't just sound loud, it creates an entire symphony of high-frequency sounds that we aren't even capable of perceiving. Interestingly, the cat's ear has 32 muscles, compared to just 6 in the human ear, which allow them to rotate their ears 180 degrees and accurately determine the source of sound with precision up to 5 centimeters. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, and suddenly someone turns on 10 air raid sirens right next to you. That's approximately how a cat perceives the sound of a vacuum cleaner. Their ear pinnae are designed to capture and amplify sounds, directing them straight to the inner ear. Evolutionarily, this helped cats hunt even prey that moves silently, such as mice. Amazingly, cats can distinguish sounds that differ in frequency by just 1/10 of a tone. This is comparable to perfect pitch in humans, which less than 1% of the population possesses. But it's not just about loudness. The vacuum cleaner emits a low-frequency hum that sounds particularly threatening to a cat's ear. In the wild, similar low sounds are often associated with approaching large predators or natural disasters. The cat's brain literally screams, "Danger! Run!" or "hide." And this is an absolutely normal reaction from a survival perspective. Studies show that low-frequency sounds in the range from 50 to 200 Hz cause the greatest alarm reaction in cats, and most vacuum cleaners operate precisely in this threatening range. Interestingly, fear of the vacuum cleaner is not only related to hearing. The vibration created by the working appliance is transmitted through the floor and perceived by the cat's paws. Cats have special receptors in their paw pads that detect even the slightest surface vibrations. These receptors are called Pacinian corpuscles, and they are so sensitive that they can register micro vibrations created by a mouse moving several meters away. In the wild, this helps them sense approaching prey or danger. When a vacuum cleaner starts working, these receptors send signals to the brain about powerful, continuous vibration, which only intensifies the stress response. Another factor is the unpredictability of vacuum cleaner movements. Cats are creatures of habit. They like when everything goes according to plan. But a vacuum cleaner moves chaotically, changes direction, sometimes attacks the cat's territories, invades the pet's personal space. To a cat, this looks like the behavior of a strange, unpredictable predator that's best kept away from. In studies of feline behavior, scientists have found that the unpredictability of a stimulus increases the stress response 2 to 3 times compared to predictable ones. even if they are equally intense. Smell also plays a role in forming a cat's fear. The vacuum cleaner raises dust and spreads many scents that were preserved in the carpet or furniture. For a cat, with its hypersensitive sense of smell, this is a real sensory overload. Cats have about 200 million olfactory receptors. Humans have only 5 to 6 million. And they can distinguish odors in concentrations 14 times lower than what's available to humans. Imagine suddenly finding yourself in a perfume shop where hundreds of fragrances are being sprayed simultaneously. That's roughly how a cat perceives the scent trail from a working vacuum cleaner. Curiously, some researchers of feline behavior note another aspect: the electrostatic field created by the vacuum cleaner's operation. Cat fur is very sensitive to static electricity, and a working vacuum cleaner can create an uncomfortable tingling sensation throughout the body. This is especially noticeable in dry climates or winter when air humidity is low. Some cats may actively groom themselves after contact with a vacuum cleaner. This is an attempt to get rid of the unpleasant sensations and reset their tactile receptors. Particularly interesting is the fact that the reaction to a vacuum cleaner can differ among different cats. Studies show that early experience influences the formation of fears in animals. Kittens who were introduced to vacuum cleaners during the socialization period, from 2 to 7 weeks, are much less likely to fear it in adulthood. This is called habituation. The nervous system learns to recognize safe stimuli and not respond to them with panic. Experiments show that kittens familiar with a variety of sounds at an early age grow into more balanced and adaptive adult cats. There is also a genetic predisposition to anxiety. Studies conducted on twin pairs of cats showed that about 60% of the variability in responses to stressful stimuli can be explained by heredity. That is, if your kitten's parents were skittish, there's a high probability that it will inherit this trait. However, even genetically anxious cats can learn to cope with fears with the right approach. But what's really surprising? Some cat breeds demonstrate less fear of vacuum cleaners. For example, Maine Coons and Ragdolls are known for their calmer temperament and often show curiosity instead of fear. British Shorthair cats also often maintain composure. This is related to genetic characteristics and selection for certain character traits. Abyssinian cats, known for their curiosity, may even investigate the vacuum cleaner when it's turned off, although they usually still prefer to keep their distance when it's operating. Siamese and Oriental breeds, on the contrary, often demonstrate increased anxiety and may react to the vacuum cleaner particularly dramatically. What happens to a cat physiologically when it hears a vacuum cleaner? The sympathetic nervous system activates, part of the autonomic nervous system responsible for the fight or flight response. Adrenaline is released into the bloodstream, heart rate increases, pupils dilate, muscles tense. The cat prepares to either attack the threat or flee. Most choose the second option, and this is completely normal. Measurements show that a cat's heart rate can increase from 120 to 200 beats per minute in just a few seconds after turning on the vacuum cleaner. Interestingly, the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional memory, also activates in cats. This means that each negative experience with a vacuum cleaner not only frightens the cat at the moment, but is also recorded in long-term memory, intensifying fear during subsequent encounters. Studies using functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, show that amygdala activity in cats, when exposed to frightening stimuli, can be even higher than in humans diagnosed with anxiety disorders. Interestingly, fear of vacuum cleaners can be intensified due to so-called negative reinforcement. If a cat runs away from the vacuum cleaner and hides, the threat, from its perspective, disappears. The brain remembers. Flight helped avoid danger. Next time, the reaction will be even quicker and more intense. This is a classic learning mechanism that reinforces fear with each new episode. Neurobiologists call this process fear consolidation. With each repetition, the neural connections responsible for the fear response become stronger and activate faster. There is also the phenomenon of fear generalization, when a cat begins to fear not only the vacuum cleaner itself, but also similar sounds or objects. Some cats, after a traumatic experience with a vacuum cleaner, may begin to fear hair dryers, blenders, or even electric toothbrushes. This happens because the brain creates a broad category of dangerous, noisy objects and reacts to everything that fits this description. Can you help a cat overcome this fear? Absolutely. There is a desensitization technique, gradual habituation to the frightening stimulus. Start by simply placing the turned-off vacuum cleaner in the room for a few minutes. Reward the cat with a treat if it shows interest, or at least doesn't run away. Gradually, you can turn on the vacuum cleaner for a short time while in another room, and again, reward the cat's calm behavior. It's important to follow the principle of gradualness. Studies show that increasing the stimulus intensity too quickly can lead to the opposite effect, intensifying fear instead of reducing it. Animal behavior experts recommend the technique of counter-conditioning, creating positive associations with the frightening object. For example, you can feed the cat its favorite treat only during vacuum cleaner operation, starting from a great distance and gradually reducing the distance. Over time, the brain begins to associate the sound of the vacuum cleaner not with danger, but with the pleasant experience of receiving tasty food. Studies show that this approach can reduce the stress response by 70% after just 2 to 3 weeks of regular training. Some owners report successful use of pheromone diffusers that help create a sense of security. These devices distribute synthetic analogs of feline facial pheromones, the same ones that cats mark safe objects with when they rub their faces against them. The brain receives a signal. It's safe here. This is my territory, which helps reduce anxiety. Clinical trials show the effectiveness of these products in reducing stress reactions in 75% of cats, although the effect may vary depending on the individual characteristics of the animal. There are also special anti-stress vests for cats that work on the principle of deep pressure. They create a sensation of being hugged, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the antagonist of the fight or flight system. Studies show that such vests can reduce heart rate and cortisol levels, stress hormone, in the blood by 30 to 40% during stressful situations. However, it's important to choose the right size and gradually accustom the cat to wearing such a vest. Robot vacuum cleaners deserve special mention. Many owners notice that cats fear them even more than conventional ones. And this makes sense. A robot vacuum cleaner not only makes noise and vibrates, but also moves independently without human participation. For a cat's perception, this is a real autonomous being invading its territory. Some cats even try to attack robot vacuum cleaners, defending their possessions. Studies show that autonomous movement is perceived by cats as a sign of a living creature, which activates completely different neural circuits related to territorial behavior, not just fear of noise. Interestingly, the reaction to robot vacuum cleaners can change over time. About 20% of cats, after initial fear, begin to show curiosity and may even start hunting the device or watching it from ambush. Some cats even use robot vacuum cleaners as transportation, jumping on them and riding around the house. This shows the amazing adaptability of the feline psyche and the ability to rethink initial fears. Regarding long-term stress from vacuum cleaners, it can be harmful to a cat's health. constant release of stress hormones negatively affects the immune system, can cause digestive problems and even behavioral disorders. Chronic stress is associated with an increased risk of developing cystitis, dermatitis, and other inflammatory diseases in cats. Studies show that regular exposure to strong stressors can reduce the lifespan of domestic cats by 10 to 15%. That's why it's so important to create a safe place for your pet where it can take shelter during cleaning, a high shelf, a separate room, or a special house. Veterinary psychologists recommend creating refuges for cats in different parts of the house, places where they can feel safe. The ideal refuge should be elevated above the floor to minimize vibrations, partially enclosed to create a sense of protection, and positioned so that the cat can observe what's happening without being exposed to danger. Studies show that having 3 to 4 such refuges in the home can reduce the overall stress level in cats by 50%. Interestingly, the time of day can affect the intensity of a cat's reaction to a vacuum cleaner. Cats are most sensitive to stressful stimuli during periods of natural activity. At dawn and dusk, cleaning in the middle of the day when most cats are usually sleeping may cause a less intense fear reaction. This is related to circadian rhythms and the level of awakening hormones in the blood. In conclusion, cats' fear of vacuum cleaners is not a whim or stupidity, but a complex neurobiological reaction shaped by evolution for survival. Loud sound, vibration, unpredictable movements, and smells create a real sensory overload for the cat, triggering a cascade of stress reactions. Understanding the mechanisms of this fear helps us not only better understand our furry friends, but also find ways to make their lives more comfortable and safe. It's important to remember that each cat is unique, and what works for one animal may be ineffective for another. Observe your pet's reactions. Be patient and consistent in training, and over time, you will be able, if not completely rid the cat of fear of the vacuum cleaner, then at least significantly reduce the level of stress it experiences during cleaning. Now I want to ask you, what methods do you use to make the cleaning process less stressful for your furry friend? Perhaps you've noticed some unusual reactions from your cat to the vacuum cleaner that differ from the typical ones? Or maybe you have your own secret techniques that you're willing to share with other owners. Write about it in the comments. Your experience could be invaluable to other cat lovers facing the same problem. And if the video was useful to you, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There's still much more interesting content ahead about the mysteries of feline psychology. Each like helps our content reach a larger audience and help even more cats and their owners. Click the bell to not miss the next video, in which we'll reveal another enigma of cat behavior that will surely surprise you. Or perhaps you want to learn about some specific feature of cat behavior? Write your wishes in the comments. Remember, understanding your pet is the first step to harmonious relationships.